Saudi government has finally acknowledged that journalist Jamal Khashoggi was killed while visiting the Saudi consulate in Istanbul, says he died during a fist fight. The Saudi public prosecutor has confirmed that investigations are still underway and 18 Saudi nationals have been arrested. Royal Court advisor Saud Al-Qahtani and Deputy Intelligence Chief Ahmad Al-Siri have been sacked from their positions. Saudi Arabia has also promised that the guilty will be punished and brought to justice. Israeli soldiers shot and wounded 130 Palestinians during protests near the Gaza Strip border. An Israeli military spokeswoman says about 10,000 demonstrators marched at the border and that some threw burning tires, grenades and explosive devices at the troops across the fence. But the protest was relatively small. Some of the previous gatherings included about 30,000 people, a sign that tensions that have built up in the past few days might be easing. Scuffles broke out between Palestinian protesters and Israeli forces outside a Bedouin village in the occupied West Bank facing Israeli demolition. Israeli forces fired pepper spray at protesters near Khan al-Ahmar. Flag-waving demonstrators were protesting an Israeli topcourt's decision to clear the way for the demolition of the village. Around 180 Bedouin raising sheep and goats live in tin and wood shacks in Khan al-Ahmar. WikiLeaks founder Julian Assange has filed a lawsuit in Ecuador seeking better access to communications as part of his asylum in the Andean nation's London embassy. Last week restored partial internet access to Assange some 6 months after the Ecuadorian government suspended his communication in March. This comes after he discussed issues on social media that could damage the country's diplomatic relations, including a diplomatic crisis between London and Moscow, as well as Catalonian separatism. General Abdul Razak, the Kandahar police commander, was buried in a funeral procession attended by hundreds. The assassination, one of the country's most powerful security chiefs, has dealt a stunning blow to the Western-backed government and forced the postponement of parliamentary elections in the southern Afghan province. Razak was killed outside the provincial governor's office when a bodyguard opened fire on a group of officials as they left a meeting with the General Scott Miller. Thousands of grieving residents gathered in the central square of Black Sea port city of Kerch to lay flowers at the coffins of college shooting victims. An armed 18-year-old student killed 20 people, most of them fellow pupils, and wounded dozens at the Polytechnic College. The suspended attacker was dead from a self-inflicted gunshot wound after an assault that also saw a bomb set off in the college canteen. A second explosive device was found among the suspect's personal possessions. Two people were killed and several injured after a blast at the territory of a fireworks factory in Russia's Leningrad region near St. Petersburg. Russian Interfax news agency reported that the blast took place when the majority of workers have already left their factory. A video released by Russian Emergency Ministry showed firemen and police officers at the scene of the blast. A huge group of some 3,000 people from El Salvador, Guatemala and Honduras are heading towards the U.S. border with Mexico to seek asylum. This in spite of U.S. President Donald Trump's threats of retaliation. The first members of the group began arriving in Uman in Guatemala on buses and trucks. But the bulk of the caravans sloshed into town on foot in a downpour late in the afternoon and into the evening. Trump has threatened to close the U.S. border if Mexico let the migrants advance. Hong Kong authorities reviewed a section of the Hong Kong-Zhuhai-Macau Bridge ahead of its official opening for traffic. The bridge will put the three cities it connects within an hour's drive of each other and is expected to boost economic development and tourism in Hong Kong. Both Hong Kong and mainland China officials hope the bridge will encourage economic integration at a time of growing tensions between the two and alleviate concerns over the future of Hong Kong's autonomy. Macedonia's parliament has approved a proposal to change the country's name, bringing a decades-old dispute with Greece a step closer to resolution. A total of 80 deputies in the 120-seat parliament voted in favor of renaming the Balkan country Republic of North Macedonia, just reaching the two-thirds majority needed to launch the procedure for constitutional changes. The vote came less than 3 weeks after a referendum on the name of change, and Macedonia's aspirations to join NATO and the European Union failed due to an insufficient turnout. The injured from the Amritsar train accident have been rushed to the nearby hospitals. Authorities say that the death toll is likely to rise. The Railways is conducting rescue and relief operations. Chief Minister of Punjab, Captain Amrinder Singh, has announced a compensation of 5 lakh rupees for the families of the deceased. The state will remain in mourning today in view of the accident. All offices and educational institutions will be closed. Earlier in the day, Indian Prime Minister Narendra Modi visited the Shirdi shrine of popular spiritual leader Sai Baba in Maharashtra state for centenary prayers of his Mahasamadhi. The Sai Baba left his mortal body on 18th of October 1918 and his body was laid in tomb at Shirdi. The revered saint, who is till date claimed by both Hindus and Muslims, preached his principle of love, faith against greed and monotheism to all his disciples, irrespective of caste and creed. The 9-day Hindu festival of Durga Puja culminated with the devotees across India immersing idols of goddess Durga in water. In the eastern parts of the country, devotees, mostly women, along with the transgender community and even sex workers, participated in this social revelry which celebrates women in all their forms. They danced with joy and smeared vermilion on each other as a part of a tradition known as Sindoor Khela to mark the end of the festival. Hundreds of hardline Hindu protesters blocked 2 women from entering a South Indian hill temple for centuries. The Sabrimala temple in Kerala state has banned women and girls between the age of 10 and 50 from entering the holy site. But last month, India's Supreme Court ruled the ban infringed on the right to worship. Since then, the case has become a focal point for women's rights in India. An airlift is the only lifeline for 2 tiny hamlets high in the French Alps, completely cut off from civilization since a rock slide took out the only road in April. A heap of rubble and a scar on the hillside is all that remains of the road and bridle. And on Wednesday, a helicopter to deliver heavy equipment such as fuel and animal feed, 2/3 of the €3,000 cost was borne by the locals, clubbing together with the remainder paid for the local authorities. Lottery fever has running high as the United States Mega Million Lottery jackpot jumped to a record $1 billion. The winner can opt for an immediate cash payment of around $500 million or receive the $1 billion prize over 29 years. A stack of $100 bills amount to $500 million would reach over 2,000 feet. That is taller than any skyscraper in the United States, including New York City's World Trade Center. Mega Million tickets are sold in 44 U.S. states, the District of Columbia and the Virgin Islands.